As I walk down the hall, eyes turn my way in a form of either curiosity or judgment, and I hear whispers of things like emo, weird, try hard, what is she wearing, and depressed. And those are just the filtered comments that I hear. But the takeaway is often that I look and appear to be mean, which are also filtered comments. The clothes I wear, down to the makeup that I put on, are all part of stereotypical groups and words. And it's those stereotypes that affect how people look and approach me. This assumption is based solely on my appearance. But when you talk to me, you realize I'm actually very nice. I'm a leader, captain of the badminton team, art club president, and an older sibling. I'm a 3-sport athlete, and when I draw, my artwork is bright and colorful. I like anime and I like gaming, and I have a bit of a sweet tooth. But you would only know this about me if you got the chance to know me. When this does occur, most people often say, "You're actually really nice," now that I know you. The stereotypes I was subjected to never totally bothered me because of this. I knew I could easily put off any of the negative assumptions about me once people got to know me. I could share this part about myself with whoever took the time to get to know me. However, all of this changed one summer when I lost my voice. I was out shopping with my dad and my brother. All we were planning to do was buy some custom-bought M&Ms with our names on it when we heard the first few gunshots. Something that you can hear but can't see is absolutely terrifying. All I could hear was the sound of gunshots, glass breaking, and screaming. People tried to escape from something that they couldn't see. And not only was I subjected to handling my own, but I was also entrusted with my younger brother. Nobody knew where to go. People were riding up the escalator, getting trampled. Kids were crying, and you could smell blood. In the chaos, it ended up being just my brother and I. Being far away from my parents, my home, hours away from everything that I knew, all I knew was I had to run. I eventually found safety in a hotel where I thought it would be okay for me and my brother, until even more people came, running in, trying to hide. We hid for hours in an unknown city, hours away from home, in a room with people that I had just met that day, people that I had never met a day in my life, and I had to hide with them for hours. My brother and I were physically fine, and we eventually found our way back to my dad, but the emotional scars from that were lasting. I was speechless, literally. I was unable to speak once the adrenaline subsided. The words, "Are you okay?" Something that no one almost ever wants to hear, but something that feels like it's an easy answer. And in that moment, I couldn't say yes. I couldn't even say no. What lasted only a couple of hours took away something that I had my entire life. And from then on, I couldn't communicate. And in the rare moments that I did, it came up in a series of stutters to the point where I just felt embarrassed to even say a word to my family. I couldn't express myself. I couldn't speak English, nor could I speak Spanish to my grandmother. No language was safe for me because I felt like an idiot talking out loud. This went on for weeks, and I felt like I was drowning within myself, and I couldn't talk to anyone about it. I realized that my dreams for my future as a senior would be over. It would be changed. And I was scared that I couldn't speak up anymore, because I was known as being someone to talk to at school, someone that people could go to for advice or even just to have a fun conversation. And all of that disappeared in the matter of one day. I had lost my voice, the thing that helped me drown out the stereotypes, the voice that helped me express my compassion, my leadership. It was all gone. and all that was left of me was the stereotypes. My sea of identity that I was still navigating as a young teen was completely crushed by this experience I had gone through. Who was I now? The stereotypes that became me stemmed from a specific view of society. A stereotype is a fixed view on a person or a thing. This includes things like assuming a person behaves a certain way based on solely their appearance. It's a way to simplify a person to a simple word, a phrase. Stereotypes are used to simplify how we socialize, as we categorize people that are just either socially acceptable or those that just aren't, because, hey, they're weird, we don't want them in our group, right? This is how media helps broadcast trends and social groups. The idea of what we have in our head when we hear the trend or the word athlete, gamer, the whole nerd concept is all based on what we're told to think by society. And it's those stereotypes that are very normalized in high school. And their effects are wide-reaching because it can be seen in high schoolers that they often have depression. Depression is caused by many things, but when you're isolated and who you are is not accepted, not only are you isolated from the people around you, but you're isolated in school. Social groups like emos or goth are targeted for bullying, as many associate them with self-harm and depression. Athletes are associated with being full of themselves and not smart, and they're just not capable because, hey, let's just not bring an athlete into the group when they're not going to pull their weight. All of this causes incidents of bullying to spike because the PMC, Public Medical Center, did a study on mental health regarding bullying. 77% of the kids had experienced bullying, while 68.9% had thoughts of suicide. Verbal bullying was 8.4% more likely, while cyberbullying was 11.5%. How does this correlate to stereotypes? Well, when you bully, you find something in another to pick on. You find something in the way they dress, the way they look, or even just the tiny little gestures that they do in the hallways. You pick on something, anything, and you pick on them. And when you're a kid, still trying to figure out who you are, and you're being picked on for just expressing yourself, it gets more difficult to just carry on because who you are is not accepted. The United States Foundation found that deaths by suicide went up 100,000, ranging from ages 15 to 19, which is pretty much the teen age range. And most of those were caused by bullying and from isolation, both at school and in general. Once you have an idea of who a person is, that affects how you treat that person. Because our idea of what depression looks like helps us imagine what a person should look like rather than who they are. As many people associate teens with angst and depression and going through all these phases, it's hard to have a grasp on who you're supposed to be. Maybe you see that person and you assume that they have problems because they look a certain way, because they just look depressed, and you think you should stay away from them, that you should just cast them out. It's a simple thought, and then it turns into an action as you bluntly just decide to not talk to that person or to just not partner with someone in a group. Maybe you decided that you were not going to partner with a cheerleader because you think that they're too full of themselves. Or maybe you decide to not partner with someone because you think that they just look dumb. All of that stems from an idea that we generate in our head about what a smart person should look like, or what someone that actually pulls their weight should look like. This may seem like something that we just do without noticing, but it's those unspoken things that just goes to show how we discriminate based on solely the thoughts in our head. Everyone deserves to be loved for who they are. And even though it's easier to label someone than to get to know them, it doesn't make it right. So what can you do to help change that? Whether it's at school, community, or just bluntly yourself, what can you do to change that? You can start by asking questions. Ask about a person's style, what they like, Get to know them. It isn't difficult to just ask a person what they like their interests. If they tend to dress alternatively, maybe you could just ask them like, hey, where did you get that style from? Or is there any meaning behind that, instead of just judging them? People that dress basic or people that have no style doesn't mean that they have no personality. Your appearance shouldn't designate who you are as a person. It can be part of that, but that's not all you are. There's so much that you can learn from a person if you just take the chance to get to know them. And to do this, you can start by educating yourself on different people, different groups, developing an empathy to try and see how they feel and are as a person. It can help you ask questions in the future, because the more you educate yourself, the less you are inclined to let those stereotypes designate who you talk to. You can also familiarize yourself with diverse media, because this will help you not only recognize, but it can help you eliminate things like backhanded compliments. Those are the things that we often hear that we don't think much of, but it can be things like, oh, you're pretty good at this for a girl. Or, I didn't expect you to look this great without any makeup on. Backhanded compliments stem from stereotypes, saying things like, you're really pretty for a guy. Insinuates that men not only have to look masculine, but that this is what makes you a guy. You have to look a certain way to actually be a guy. If you're going to compliment someone, ask yourself, would hearing this make you question the intention of the compliment? While some may not mean it as an ill intent, some things are just programmed into the brain. And if we were to lessen the intensity that these stereotypes held on our kids, so many things would be reduced. People wouldn't associate certain races with crimes, drugs, or gangs. The times in the past where white people were always the heroes and people of color always had to play the role of the villain would change, as it is slowly becoming, because the world is becoming more diverse. But in the past, it wasn't as diverse. The world is changing around us gradually, but in our school, those cliques, the stereotypes, they still divide us and they still split us apart. If we were to talk to people more and assume less, we would have a better understanding about one another, and the world would be filled with more compassion, more empathy, and more love. The question that I asked myself before, who am I don't really know yet. But what I do know is that my voice is a huge part of who I am as a person. But it isn't all of me. The athleticism, the art, any of this, you wouldn't know unless you took the time to get to know me. Use your voice, because you never know when it will be gone. And then you'll regret all the things that you didn't say, all the people you didn't talk to. Getting to know someone shows that you see them from more than a label, that you see them more than a category, more than a word, that they are more than a stereotype. Thank you.